Hi, my name is Ros Harding and I'm the Head Librarian and Archivist at the King's School in Chester, and I'm also going to be the North West Regional Judge for the CKG Awards for the next 2 years, which is a very exciting prospect. So as part of the National Shelf Service, I'm going to recommend 3 books to you today, and I've tried to cover some different age groups with books I've chosen. So first up, for maybe younger readers, is The Legend of Kevin, the Roly-Poly Flying Pony by Philip Reeve and Sarah McIntyre. And Philip Reeve and Sarah McIntyre have created some amazing books together, and I would definitely recommend that you seek out anything that they have done. They are an incredible partnership. But I've chosen The Legend of Kevin as this is a particular favourite in my house. I bought this for my son when he was about 7, and I read it to him then. He then read it by himself, and I read it to him again, and then he's read it by himself again, and he's gone on to read other Reeve and McIntyre books. He really did start a love for this kind of books with him, and even though he's just turned 9, we still really enjoy these. I always say there is no upper age limit on books. So the story of Kevin, who's indeed a roly-poly flying pony, and he's living a fairly happy existence out in the wild wet hills of the outermost west. But one day there is a magical storm and he gets swept out of his nest and blown into Bumblefoot, but thankfully lands on the balcony of Max, who lives on the top floor of an apartment block. And Max and Kevin become firm friends immediately. Obviously, Kevin is a wonderful roly-poly flying pony, and as long as you keep him in custard creams, then he's very easy to get along with. And Max is thrilled, he's always wanted a pet, so they start adventures together. And when a flood comes to Bumblefoot, and a really severe flood involving some magical creatures from the outermost west, Max and Kevin work together to save the people of Bumblefoot. So it's very funny, there's some brilliant characters, brilliant creatures in it, really good fun all the way through. But the friendship between Max and Kevin is done so well that I will warn the parents out there, or the teachers or the librarians who might be reading this book to people, that I did choke up a little bit on the final chapter. It was quite difficult to read. So it does come with a little warning about that. But I've recommended this to colleagues who've got children about the same age, and I think this book's had the same reaction for all of them. It's just instantly the child's favourite book. So that is my first recommendation, The Legend of Kevin, the Roly-Poly Flying Pony by Philip Reeve and Sarah McIntyre. And then moving up in ages a little bit, we come on to Stonebird by Mike Revel. And I would say this is great for sort of ages 10 upwards, again, upwards, no maximum age limit on this. We're very lucky that Mike is our patron of reading at the moment at the King's School. Obviously, we haven't been able to do a huge amount this year with everything that's gone on, but we will still be working with him come September onwards. Stonebird was Mike's first novel. He's also written a book called Stormwalker, which I would also highly recommend. But Stonebird, I think, just has that little edge over it. For me, it's a personal choice. Stonebird is the story of Liam, who's going through some difficult things at home, not least among them the fact that his grandmother is suffering from dementia. And he comes across a gargoyle in a church that comes to life. You can see the size of this incredible gargoyle that comes to life. And this gargoyle starts acting out the stories that Liam is telling in school. And Liam obviously wants to use this to try and help his grandmother. So you have a really emotional story of things Liam's going through. His friendship and his relationship with his grandmother is just beautiful and heartbreaking. But then there's this fantastical element on it, which makes it exciting and interesting, and I think will just appeal to such a wide range of children, whatever kind of books they normally like. I think there's something in this that they will latch onto. It's absolutely beautifully written as well, just such gorgeous use of language in that it's not a difficult read. So my daughter read it, I think when she was 10, and I mean, she was a fairly confident reader. She just absolutely ran with it. So it's a nice, easy read in that way. But you really feel like every word has been thought about, and there's a real depth to this book, and it's really a very, very strong recommendation. So that is Stonebird by Mike Revel. And then the final book that I'm going to recommend to you will come as no surprise to anyone who knows me, because I am a massive Sarah Crossan fangirl, and I'm going to recommend Moonrise by Sarah Crossan. I will apologise for showing you this cover of the book. This is actually the proof copy. I was very, very lucky to grab a proof copy at the School Library Association when they were being released. So the actual cover that you will see is slightly different to this, especially depending when you get hardback or paperback. So this, as in most of Sarah's books, is a verse novel, so it is told through poems. I'd never read any verse novels before Sarah Crossan came along, really. I read The Weight of Water when that was shortlisted for the Carnegie Medal a number of years ago, and I just instantly fell in love with that format. And certainly I've seen in school that has really connected with a lot of our teenagers. Sarah Crossan is one of the most popular authors, but it's also meant that they've now gone on to read those other verse novels that are coming out. So people like Elizabeth Acevedo, Jason Reynolds were very popular on the Carnegie shortlist last year. And I think there's just something about just getting straight into the emotion of a character that the verse novel offers. They're quite easy to read. You can flick through them quite quickly. You really feel like you're getting through the book in quite a fast way, which I think is really important for some teenagers who've got so much going on in their lives, perhaps especially at the moment. So it really speaks to them and makes them feel that sense of achievement, I think, for getting through a book quickly. But they also perhaps don't realise how much work is going on in their brain to make these books work. They have to fill in all the gaps, but it just happens in a very organic way. So they're getting a lot out of it. There's a lot of depth to the books, but they will feel like it's an easier experience. So Moonrise is a very heartbreaking story. Again, anyone who's read any other of Sarah's books will appreciate that's always going to be the case. It's the story of Jo and Ed, who are brothers, and it's told from Jo's point of view, who's the younger brother. They haven't seen each other for 10 years because when Ed left home, he was then arrested for the murder of a police officer in Texas and has been on death row for 10 years. Jo was only 7 when he left, so he hasn't seen him in that time. And now at 17, Ed has now got the execution date, and Jo decides that now he's 17, he can go out to go and stay near the prison for that last month before Ed's execution date, and also to be there for those sort of final appeals. I think I chose this book over Sarah's other ones, partly because I know others have been recommended through the National Shelf Service anyway, but I also feel passionately about the death penalty. So I think this book had a real connection with me straight away. But really, it's the story of two brothers. It's the story of how do you say goodbye to somebody you love. So even if you come into this with absolutely no opinion or even a completely different opinion about the death penalty, you will still get so much out of this book. Ed and Jo, have had a horrible background, an absent father, a mother who perhaps wasn't quite up to the job of being a mother, and then does eventually leave after Ed has left. She does leave Jo and his sister Angela with their aunt rather than staying around. So you get what's going on at the moment, or the lead up to Ed's execution date, but you also get the flashbacks to their relationship when they were younger. And it's just such a powerful story about those sibling relationships, mostly between Jo and Ed, but also Angela is in there very strongly too. It just feels so real. It's just beautifully written, as all of Sarah's books are. It obviously comes with a warning not to be reading this in a public place. This is a book to be read on your own in a quiet corner with a box of tissues and maybe a box of chocolates next to you. So that is my final recommendation, is Moonrise by Sarah Crossan. So just to recap, so as well as that one, we also have Stonebird by Mike Gravel. That's a sort of middle grade book. And then we also have The Legend of Kevin for younger readers. So I hope that you can get hold of these books now that local libraries are starting to reopen, even if it's on a click and collect service like we're having in North Wales at the moment, or whether you're able to go in, you should be able to get them all online as well. So I hope that you enjoy at least one of those books. Thank you very much.